today we're going to make a little summer corn kicker for our cat friends. The things you'll need to make this today will be our 4mm crochet hook or G crochet hook, yarn needle, nothing fancy, some scissors, any kind of scissors will do. Sharp is great because then you get those nice ends on your yarn for when you're weaving and tying. Worsted weight yarn in a color for your corn, maybe an alternate color for your kernels if you wanted to switch up the kernel colors, and then a color for your stem. So that worsted weight yarn, whatever colors you want really for your piece here, and some polyfill stuffing or any kind of stuffing you like. Maybe you like to use other ends of yarn for your stuffing. That's totally okay. Optional catnip. If you wanted to put some catnip in there, you could. You don't have to. Maybe your cat just likes to kick things or roll things around. You don't need catnip then. That is everything I believe that you will need to make this. I'm going to also give you a little update on our foster cat. She's still here with us, still waiting on her dental surgery. We have finally found a method to kind of fatten her up and to make sure that she takes her medicine for her pain every day. We have been spoon feeding her, which turns out she loves, and now she might be very, very spoiled when she does finally make it to her forever home. I'll just give you a little sneak peek here of her eating her breakfast, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks. Okay, our first little round here will be our magic circle, and then we'll crochet 6. Pretty typical starting point for us here. So we're crossing the long end over the short, going in through the front of that loop. We're going to pull up 2 new little loops, and that's our magic circle. And then we're going to single crochet 6. So we're going in, we'll wrap our yarn around our hook, we'll pull it up, we'll wrap, and we'll pull through those 2. And we're going to do that 5 more times. This is going to be the very top of our stem for our little piece of corn here. Once we get to the end of this round, we'll pull our little short tail to close up the circle, and then we will be changing directions on the next round. So we get a couple more here. And there we go. So we're gonna, oh my word, I got some butterfingers today. Going in. There we go. And we'll leave those 6 on there. We're gonna take our short tail. We'll pull. And that brings that loop together. You can see the little circle there. We're gonna go into the top of that very first stitch. So you're finding that very first stitch. We're gonna go in. And we're going to slip stitch to join, so we're just grabbing that yarn, we're going to pull it up through there and then through that stitch we ended with. We'll chain 1, and then we're ready for round 2. Okay, for round 2 we've got that chain 1, and then we're going to be doing single crochets in the back loop only. So just in that little V shape there, just the back side, so the side farthest away from you, and we're going to single crochet into there. Just 1 in each stitch. So we're going through the back, wrap our yarn, pull it up, wrap, pull through both of those. We're going to keep going. When we get to that last stitch, we'll still have 6 on our way around, but we're going to just add 1 little step in here. If you were just making a toy, you might not think about doing it, or just something to, I don't know, have sitting out in some sort of food display, whatever kind of crocheting you like to do. But if you are making this for a cat, I would recommend, when you take this tail, we're going to grab our yarn needles and just thread it through to tie it off to the inside. We're just going to make that beginning magic circle a little extra secure. So we're not doing anything fancy, we're just grabbing like a single leg of a stitch, any stitch really, on that very first round. We're going to go through and we're just going to make a simple knot, and we're going to pull that as tight as we can, and that's going to keep the other side closed off. So now we can join the first stitch and the last stitch of that second round there. So you're just going through the top. So we're getting that whole V this time. And once you've slip stitched, since we were working on that back side to do the knot, we're probably going to have to pop it back around to be right side out. We've got one last round for our stem here. We'll chain one, and we're going to single crochet one in each stitch around. So you're going through both loops this time, wrap our yarn, pull it up, wrap, pull through both, and we'll keep going all the way to the end. At the end of this round, we won't join yet. We're going to change colors when we get to the end before we do our slip stitch to join. So once we have all 6 stitches, we'll just put that down, grab your yellow or whatever color you want your corn to be. As always, whatever colors you like, it's fine with me. So we'll go ahead, grab our yellow yarn or whatever color, and we're ready for round 4. Okay, I've grabbed my yellow yarn. I no longer need the greens. So I'm gonna leave like a medium length tail and cut that off. Put in my green yarn off to the side for now, and we're going to tie the yellow onto the green. I'll leave my hook in that last loop that we made. That way that stitch stays the size we want it, and we can make these knots as tight as we want. So we're trying to bring it right to the edge there of that loop, and I'm just going to knot again, just in the other direction. So just making a double knot, switching which tail goes over. Doesn't really matter. Oh. Okay, so we've got our yellow yarn. We're going to put both tails out of the way and work with that length of yellow here. Now we're going to slip stitch to join that very first round. So we're going into stitch number 1 on that last round, wrapping our yarn, we're pulling it up, and then we're pulling through that last one. We're going to chain 1, and then we've got our first increase round here. We're going to go a single crochet, 2 single crochets rather, in each stitch around. So we just worked 1 single crochet in that first stitch, and then we're going to go right back in to that same spot. Oh, now we've got a little increase there. So we're going to keep going all the way around. At the end of this round, you'll end up with 12 stitches if you're counting from across the top, and we will slip stitch to join, and we'll chain 1, and then we'll be ready for our next round. So keep going, 2 in each stitch, slip stitch, chain 1, and I'll see you for the next one. Okay, one more increase round. We're going to go 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then in the next guy we're going to do 2. We are repeating this pattern all the way around. So at the end of this round you should end up with 18 stitches. So we're going 1 single crochet, and then that next space, one, and then we go right back in to that same spot for 2. So keep going, 1 and then 2 all the way around. We'll have 18. We'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then things get a little different from there. Meet you there. Okay, my next 9 rows are going to be plain single crochet rows. The only thing that's a little bit different about them is you have the option to change colors to make like a summer corn situation, but if you like just plain yellow, you'll just keep going single crochet all the way around for the next 9 rounds. So you'll end up with 14 rounds before anything else changes. But if you want to do those color changes, we'll start off just adding a couple random single crochets. You can stop at whatever number you like, and then we'll tie on, maybe you got a lighter yellow, maybe you want to go white, maybe you've got both, totally up to you. But to change colors for the kernels, be a little different than our slip stitch join. We're going to go in, we're going to pull up, we're going to leave those 2 loops on there, and then we're going to attach our next color. So because we are making a cat toy and cats have claws and they pull at things, we're going to tie double knot, tie on our white. So we're leaving our hook in there just like we did before. And we're just going to double knot that white tail over the yellow. We're going to leave both attached because we'll be using both all the way back down. So we're going to finish that stitch with the white, and then we'll go in, wrap, pull up, and we leave those two, and we're going to finish that stitch with the yellow. So that just creates a little white kernel there. We're going to keep going all the way around, making as many yellow kernels as you want, and making as many of the other color, just making sure that you are pulling up two and then switching to the next color. That finish of that stitch actually creates the top of the next stitch, so that's why you want to change colors there. Otherwise you get kind of a little skip. So I think I'll make two white ones here. And you could have white and light yellow and bright yellow all together, or you could do like the fall maze that people will put out on their porches at Halloween time. You could do those sorts of colors, whatever you like. Maybe you've got purple corn, I don't know, whatever you like here. And one thing I will do just to save myself the grief of having too much tangle in my yarn as I'm switching around, I will make the next round without any color changes. So I'll do all of my fun kernel colors, and then the next one would just be all yellow. And you don't have to do it that way. If you want to make as many color changes as you want, feel free. But that's it. We're just going to keep going until we have 14 rounds, plain rounds, color changing as much or as little as you feel like it. At the end of each of those rounds, we're slip stitching into the very first stitch of the round you're finishing, chain one, and then you just keep going. So I'll meet you there once we have all 14 rounds. Okay, we've finished our 14 plain rounds, or our plain rounds up to round 14. And now we are going to start to decrease a little bit for the end of that unicorn. So we're going to go one single crochet in the first stitch, and then we are going to decrease. So we're going to grab the front loops only of the next two stitches. So just those front loops. You can see those back loops of the V's are still just hanging by themselves. We're wrapping our yarn, we're pulling through both of those, wrap, pull through the two left on the hook. So you can do that again. We're going one single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet the next two together. We're keeping that tension on there. That's going to help keep those stitches nice and close together. You won't get any little gaps. So when we put our catnip and our stuffing in there, nothing should poke through. When we get to the end of this round, we'll have 12 stitches. I would say maybe leave this as a plain color round. It's a little easier. And then the next one is just plain single crochets across. So if you wanted to keep alternating your kernel colors, you could. If you were done with that, we've only got 3 more rounds after this. So if you wanted to just tie off your kernel colors, you could, and just leave them hanging inside of the toy. But otherwise, maybe this is just a plain color round, so you don't have to think about decreasing and changing colors at the same time if you don't want to. Okay. So we finished round 15. We're going to slip stitch to join. We'll chain one, and again, maybe once you get around to wherever your white yarn kind of left off, or your other kernel colors left off, you could tie it to the yellow, or you can keep going for one more round. And at this point, you can kind of see I still have my tails sticking up. I'm just going to shove them in there. So now they're out of our way. One less thing to struggle with as we go. So just single crochets will again end up with just 12 stitches at the end of this round. Going all the way back to the beginning. And I think I'll throw at least one more white kernel in here, and then I'll probably tie off. Just try not to leave it too far from where the last one was, so you don't have any puckering or gaping in that corn when you add your stuffing. So finishing off this one, and then to detach that yarn, just like before, I'm going to leave my hook in there. I'm going to cut it off, leaving like a medium length tail just to give me something to work with. I have a hard time making knots if my tails aren't long enough. Okay. Keeping that knot on the inside, toward the inside of the toy. And then I will just shove that tail in there. When we finish this round, that is where we are going to be adding our catnip or stuffing or both. Definitely need some kind of stuffing, but the catnip is optional. Maybe your cats get a little too crazy with catnip. Maybe you prefer something else in there. Lots of other options. And once we get to the end, before we slip stitch, that is where you'll add all your stuff. That just leaves that hole a little bit wider for you. So adding in your stuffing, catnip first if you're going to go with catnip, just because then the stuffing will hold it down there and it won't get in your way as much. So go ahead, add those things and fill it up to wherever you like. You want that corn to be, you know, nice and full, but not so full that you see anything poking out of the holes. And then I'll meet you back there. Okay, finish that one, finish all that stuffing. Now we can slip stitch to join, close off the round we ended with. We've got 2 more rounds to go. We're going to have a decrease round and then a plain round to make the little pointy end of our corn ear. We are going to single crochet 2 together. So we're working our way into the front loop only of that first stitch. And then the next one. First decrease is always the hardest because everything's super snug right there. Okay, so we're going through the first loops only, wrap the yarn, pull through those 2, wrap the yarn, pull through the 2 on the hook. And we'll do that again. It gets a little easier after that. Front loops only if you can. Wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both. So we're going to keep going all the way until you are at the end of that round. We're going to slip stitch to join. We'll chain 1 and I'll meet you there. Okay, all of our decreases are done. We've got one last round to go. You can see things are a little tight up there. We've just got 6 stitches all the way across the top. We're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So we're going to go through, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both of those. And we're just going all the way around. Gets a little tighter. One thing I'll do is kind of angle my hook up so I don't accidentally catch anything across. And once we have finished all 6 of those stitches, we'll slip stitch to join just like we have in all the other rounds. And then we're going to tie off. So we are almost done here. We got just a couple more to go. Oop, I hate it when that happens. Little yarn splits. There we go. One more stitch for this round. And we will slip stitch to join right into that very first stitch. Again, angling the hook sort of upward to make sure you don't catch anything across. We're going to leave that loop on there. We got at least a medium length tail. We're going to take that tail, we'll wrap it around our hook and pull it through that last loop to tie it off. So you're pulling it all the way through. Now all we've got to do is weave close this little opening at the very bottom here. So you're going to grab your yarn needle and thread that tail onto your yarn needle. And once you have that tail threaded, we are just going to go into our very first stitch with our needle, out the stitch right next to it. I'm just going to do that again, in and out. We're just weaving through those top stitches. And one last time, we're going in, coming out, and then that will take you right back to the beginning there. You can see that little line of joins. And we're going to pull as tight as you can to close off that circle. So now you can see there's no more opening there. We're going to grab a little leg there from that join line. Just pulling that through until you got a little loop there. And we're going to pull through and give that as much tension as you can without ripping the yarn, just to pull that knot all the way down. Oh, it's nice and flat there. Now we're going to take our needle, and wherever you think, whatever direction that knot wants to lay flat, you'll find any opening there to place that needle in. We're going to push it down through the toy and out through anywhere, really. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to give it enough distance so that enough of the towel stays on the inside. And we're going to put a little tension on there. Take our scissors and then as close to the toy as you can without cutting any of your stitches. We're just giving that tail a little snip, and then that end just kind of disappears back into the toy. You can give a little squish to make sure that happens. And then your little ear of corn is all done and ready for your cat friends.